a veritable giant. Um, and all companies from Procter and Gamble to IBM, Coca-Cola, I could go on and on. These are all companies that took his advice, and he actively, um, did a lot of consulting work. Today's management, as you see it, being practiced across the world, is courtesy of this gentleman, Peter Drucker. So what he's saying is marketing and innovation are what produces results in your company. The rest are just costs. Okay, let that sink in with you folks. So what is marketing? Now, one of the things that you will, you get barraged with, you go to a car dealer and someone is presented to you as a marketing person. You go to I don't know, to buy some shoes and somebody will say they're a marketing so-and-so. That's not actually true at all. Marketing is the part that you have to define about your business and your products that will create a desire to buy. Apple's look and feel, Apple's image, Apple's, those products that you see streamlined, nice and sleek and elegant, that's all marketing. Selling, when you talk about when you actually meet someone for the sales, that's the selling part. Okay, they are not the marketing folks. They don't get to determine even what color of their t-shirt is going to be. That's all determined by marketing. They don't even get to determine what the price of that product is going to be. That's all determined by marketing. What pricing they can control, like they can give you 5% discount or whatever, that's all determined by marketing. The salespeople have literally no control over it whatsoever, other than that, whatever little thing that they've been given to work with in terms of pricing. So let's make sure we know what is marketing and what is sales. If I'm going too fast, or if you're not understanding what I'm saying, please raise a hand or send in a comment. I generally take a temperature check when I'm teaching it in a class, and I remind all the participants that I'm on my version 3.0 of my accent ever since coming to the US. The first version 1.0 is what my clients had to put up with, by the way. When I was making cold calls, back in those days, you had those push button phones. It was the old fashioned way. So the accent evolved over a period of time, and what you are seeing is, I guess you're a beneficiary of my version 3.0. That was a little bit joke, but it's actually correct. So the desire to buy, it's so powerful. And I'm sure you've seen these two companies. You have even bought their products. And I always tell people, to the left is Starbucks, which you're seeing on your screen. And to your right is, I don't know if some of you may have guessed it, it's Nike's Be Like Jordan. It's a Nike logo. Have they produced results? Think about it for a minute here. Think, what is exactly Starbucks selling? That coffee that they sell in your house, in our house, will cost us no more than 10 cents to produce. And I might even add that it will even taste better. You can get the finest beans, Arabian roast, and do it in your own house for 15 cents. But no, we go in and go to a Starbucks store and fork out $2, $3, whatever. Why? To the right is Nike. And Nike has literally convinced an entire generation of Americans, not generation, actually 2 generations maybe by now, to fork out $300, okay, for Nike shoes to be like Jordan. Michael Jordan himself has made upwards of $1 billion just on this, by the way, just on this royalty from Nike. Kids who cannot afford clothes have bought $200, $250 Nike sneakers. People have been shot over those sneakers. That's the power of marketing. And the irony of it all is that Nike, for the longest time, was not even manufacturing those shoes. I don't know if you know that. All it did was design and marketing. That's all they did. They came up with the whole concept and it got manufactured out of, back then it was Malaysia, Indonesia, one of those places. Now it's all over the place. That's all they did. They're not even a shoe company. They're mostly a design and marketing company. That's all they are. But look at the results. It has made billionaires out of these people who have led those companies. So something to think about, folks. So if you think marketing is not impactful, is not high impact, think again. So before we get into the marketing, all the stuff that we have to go through in the coming slides, when I used to teach this marketing class, and I've been at SCORE now since 2012, I believe, something like that, for the last 8 years. When I used to teach that class back then, I used to just go through the slides. But one of the things, I was fortunate when I sold my companies, I had some money. I was also an angel investor. I don't know if you folks are familiar with that term. Angel investors invest in startups. None of my startups became a Google, by the way. Otherwise, you would have heard of my name by now. That's okay. But I was introduced to a lot of upcoming technologies as a result. And what I could see like 5, 7 years before that time, which was obvious to me, was not obvious to a lot of folks. So let's put things in context, okay? So hopefully you can see my cursor here right in the middle. This graph, I just pulled it. It was off the internet. But I think it captures it pretty accurately as to what this is trying to tell you. This is human progress through time. 6,000 years back, we had some marvelous technological revolution that took place amongst humankind, and they built those magnificent pyramids and those columns and so on and so forth. Just stunning engineering. How the heck they did it till today, people don't understand it. They just speculate. And then for a long time, nothing much happened, and the Roman civilization came about somewhere about here. So this was the Egyptians right here, maybe. And then the Romans took it several notches higher with their construction of the aqueducts, bringing in fresh running water from literally 100 miles away into Rome. And that's why you could see the fountains. This was like a revolution, okay? To have running tap water. That required some engineering prowess. We see the Colosseum and stuff like that, and that is all great. They also invented mortar, by the way. Their mortar was so strong that over the centuries, it has actually gotten stronger, more harder, and resistant to the punishing waves of the sea along the coast of Italy. So the Romans, and then came along, there was nothing. Then came the Dark Ages. This thing should have flattened out again. And then came the Industrial Revolution. You had the the printing press, you had the steam engine, and things just took off. Okay, the steam engine was a power multiplier. You no longer needed to have a horse or 10 horses. You had the power of 1,000 horses, 10,000 horses. And that just changed everything. And things just right here took off. It took off. And then somewhere about in the 70s, right here, came along, or 60s rather, 50s or 60s, came the computer age. So back that the computers were invented sometime, people will argue, back in the early 20th century, but then it got really implemented in the form of doing something useful somewhere in the 50s, okay? Even that didn't do a whole lot until you had the integrated chip, the IC chip, which is ubiquitous now. And that just got things taken off. So I want to give you some perspective here. Okay, so this is right here is the 60s and 70s, right? So this phone, okay, I'm holding my iPhone. I hope you can see this. And you guys have that or an Android phone or whatever. This little thing that you possess has more computing power, more memory, more disk space, more of everything than all the computers that existed in the world in the 70s. Think about that for a minute. In the 1960s, the US put man on the moon and brought him back safely. What we hold in our hands is more powerful than all those computers combined. It just kind of crept up on us. And why I say these things is because we just take these things for granted. And things are continuing to not evolve. It's a revolution. And so we're right here now. Things have just taken off. In 2005, okay, I'm talking about 2005. If someone had told you, you know, Joe or whatever your name is, Susan, you know, can you do on your phone, your BlackBerry or whatever it was, can you get a video of mama while she's having a vacation out in Indonesia? And also, can you pull up your map over here to go to this friend's house and get a turn-by-turn instructions? And also be able to talk and dictate memos. And also, by the way, can it do a calculations, logarithmic calculations, scientific calculations? Also, can it surf the internet and get me this particular product that's available at a close-by store? Think about that. The answer was no. You couldn't do any of that stuff. All you could do was email, a little bit on the internet, and that was it. Today, your phone does all those things, and oh, by the way, it also makes a phone call. This stuff is revolutionizing the way we live, folks. Some of you may have even got onto this webinar using your phones. Think about that for a minute. So why is that all important? When you as a business person are trying to develop your strategy on how to develop your marketing, you got to think about what's happening to technology. So that's what I was alluding to, the revolution of power. And I'm just going to flip through my slides. So why is this important? It is important because of this next slide. Because if you are not able to know as to what's coming down the pipe, you could just get blown out of the water. All your hard work that you've put into your company, all those thousands of dollars can just evaporate if you are not on top of things. And how do you get on top of things? You read. I read a lot. I'm going to go to the next slides, and on the next slide you'll see that if you are not well read and adaptable as a consequence, as well, then what you have can become, can literally get slaughtered by another competitor. So these PPAR, I mean, that's part of any entrepreneur skills that are necessary and that I'm sure you heard about, passionate, persistent. What I wanted to add was this right here. You got to be well-read and you have to be adaptable. It is super duper important in this era. This stuff where stuff is just coming down at warp speed. Um, so this is the future. In one of those classes that I was teaching, similar to this, it was a class on marketing, and it was in a classroom. And there was this lady to my right. She was a big lady, and when I said that trucks and automations are going to render truckers obsolete, that's what I said 3 years back, okay? Just 3 years back. She just rose up and said, Nick, no way that's happening in my lifetime. Honest to God, that's what she's told me. And she was absolutely insistent because there's no way a robot is going to be able to do the stuff that a truck driver has to do, make those turns, back it up, and blah, 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 blah. So I didn't want to get into an argument, and I said, okay, yes, ma'am. But when you have that sort of blinkers on, that's going to get you into trouble. Because to me, 5 years back, I knew automated trucks were coming because I was very active, not very active, but quite active in the Houston Angel Network, where you got to see all the startups on all their new ideas that were in next 5, 7, 8 years going to become a reality. And one of them was automated trucking. Now, I'm sure you have seen this in the news, in 60 Minutes, you have seen it, I'm sure. You may have even seen this truck. Multiple companies have gotten the license to fly from Arizona to Texas. And they're right now flying and delivering goods, by the way. That has a profound impact. Think about it for a minute. If you were a business on the highway and had a truck stop with gasoline and a cafeteria or whatever it is, right? And what do you think this is going to do to your business? What if you had a motel across a mile or two away, catering to truckers? And you see that when you go down on interstates. What will that do to your business? Most businesses, if they have 10% drop in revenue, that puts them into the red and they go out of business, which is why you're reading so much today that a lot of businesses, quite a few, may not even survive. These are tough times. We're talking about the revenues going down to zero. And I'm talking about just going down by 10% puts businesses under enormous pressure. So if you are not on track and on top of what's coming down the pipe, you could be that motel owner or that truck stop owner that gets blindsided, and you know now within the next 5 years or 6 years, you may not even be able to make a living. You're going to have to close shop. And if you try and sell that business, by the way, it's too late. Why? It's all across the news. Everybody now knows that truck stops and motels that are catering to truckers are going to be in trouble. So no one's even willing to buy a business. A lot of hard work. So it's very important, shops that specialize in truck repairs, insurance companies that are specialized in trucking, they all are going to have a negative impact from this. So I don't want to belabor the point. And so what are these technologies that you need to be aware of? CARVE, this is my acronym, by the way. It's not in any textbook, and it may not be perfect. Okay, so C stands for connected. Everything will be connected. Everything, devices talking to each other with these micro embedded chips. AI over here stands for the A part, and CARV stands for artificial intelligence, which we are already seeing some disruption, but boy, we have not even seen anything near where it's going to go. This is right now in the early stages. Where in the Industrial Revolution, the steam engine was invented. And what it's going to do, we don't even know. Back in the days when steam engine was invented, nobody knew that there's going to be planes flying through the sky and going from Europe to US within 5 and 6 hours. So we don't know. Robotics, same thing. V stands for virtual reality, but really it is augmented reality. You will be hearing a lot about this 5G. I'm sure you have heard about it, read about it. That is going to revolutionize things in ways that you may not even imagine. If you go into a room, that picture that's hanging on the wall may not even be a picture. It may be, that is augmented reality. Tables that you see may not even exist. Speakers that is speaking that you've gone in person to see may not even be actually standing there. That may be just a holographic, image of that particular speaker, but boy, it looks pretty real. This is all coming, folks, and that has profound implication. And E stands for Internet of Things. Everything is internet, everything on the internet. Okay, so there may be more. There's also big data and all that stuff. Big data is just a platform on which many of these work. So please be aware of these disruptive technologies that are going to come and impact most businesses. Now, if you're in the business of styling hair, chances are your disruption is not going to be so quick and won't be so fast. If you are a janitor, they have already started deploying cleaning robots, just FYI. Walmart's already got robots in many stores, not most of them, but a few. They're doing pilot, which goes out there and does floor cleaning work. And these are all version 1.0. The sophisticated versions are still to come. So, like maybe hair cutting and maybe some nail salons, etc., might be able to, you will still be able to do what you're doing. But even there, you're going to see technology impacting you. And if you are one of the smart ones, if you are attending one of these kind of classes and networking, you'll be ahead of the curve and use that technology to your advantage. So here's another quote from Peter Drucker, and this was back in the 20th century when he said it. The only skill that will be important in the 21st century is the skill of learning new skills. Think about that for a minute. The skill of learning new skills. If you're good at it, you will be able to not only survive, you will be able to thrive. Otherwise, it can just result in a lot of painful disruption. So when we're discussing marketing, okay, in terms of opportunities, think about it in terms of short-term and long-term. Just because something is coming, like I had one time an auto mechanic who had his own garage, and when I was talking about these self-driving cars, he said, okay, so Nick, what you're saying is I shouldn't start one of those auto repair shops. I said, no, you could start one. You could, for a few years, get it up and running. But now that you know that you might have a lot of automated cars in the market, you may just want to sell it. before it becomes common knowledge, like how it is with automated trucking rather, and then move on to something else. Those who are knowledgeable can take advantage, and those who are unknowledgeable will end up buying businesses that are about to tank. And this is not just with the individuals, it's happening in corporate America too, by the way. I can give a lot of examples, but we'll be short of time. So I've got to pick it up. How do you hunt? So this is not a rhetorical question. Maybe it is rhetorical, but you'll be surprised. Most of us in business hunt like this. We're trying to get business this way. Hunters, long time back, thousands of years back, figured out this is the way your spear has to be shaped to penetrate the skin of the animal. It's the same thing with customers, except you're doing it in terms of marketing. So let me give you an example of my own client here in Houston. He was a realtor. And that realtor was doing ordinary, like putting up for sale and, trying to find houses for his clients and so on and so forth. And that business is challenging unless you're one of the top elite realtors. And so when he came to me and I looked at, I'm going to cut the whole story short down. And I looked at his whole area that he was focused on. I said, you need to look at your business very differently. And I'll explain that in the next slides as to what we did. And he went from making about $30,000, $40,000 to he started averaging north of $100,000, $150,000 a year. I kid you not. He was doing the same thing. He was being a realtor, except he was looking at his business very differently. And that's important because how you're going to penetrate the market has to be razor sharp, folks. If you're not razor sharp, you're just going to miss the mark. So this is what we're going to go through. You'll see this slide. This is a comprehensive slide. Don't let it intimidate you. We're going to go through one box at a time. And we're going to start here, and then we're going to go through step by step and talk about each of these boxes, okay? Come up with this, and we're going to talk about all these things, okay? So I just want you to be aware where you are in that slide, overall slide. So I hope I don't lose you. So here we go. What is the product service of these companies? That's the first thing you got to define about your business. What is your product or service? That's easier said than done. 50% of the time, at least 50% of the time, when people have come to me when they have a failing business or the business is just not catching on, I find out that 50% of the time they have not defined their product or service in the right way. Let's take some examples here. Okay, so Starbucks. We talked about Starbucks for a minute. Think about it. What exactly is their product or service? Are they in the business of selling you coffee? Something to think about. They're in the business of, they're in the more aspirational part of the customer experience. They're in the customer experience business. And that's why they have those warm sit-down stores. Now they may not be warm anymore, but that's what it was before. Conjuring up, all those talking intimately with your friends, dates, whatever. That is what their whole product was all about. You look at Walmart. Let's take Walmart for a minute. I always ask this question when I've got a live class. What do you think Sam Walton, who's the founder of Walmart, Sam Walton out of Bentonville, Arkansas. He's dead now. But when he was asked, I believe in the 1990s, what business is Walmart in that he looks at, you'll be surprised what the answer was. I want you to think for a minute What do you think Walmart is in? Okay. What is the business of Amazon? How is Amazon defining its business? How is BMW defining their business? Are they in the business of cars? The ultimate driving experience, maybe? The ultimate driving machine, rather, sorry. I'll tell you how that comes back to even haunt. It can be successful, but then if you don't evolve, it can come and put you out of business potentially. Kodak is a good example and point. What was their business? Was their business about cameras and film and that paper, Kodak paper, which was, special paper? These are companies, Kodak and to a certain extent BMW, may have just not defined their product or service in the right way. So Walmart, coming back to Walmart, what business was Walmart in, according to Sam Walton? Sam Walton was asked that question and he said, Walmart is in the business of logistics. He didn't say Walmart was in the business of real estate. He didn't say Walmart was in the business of retail. He didn't say Walmart was in the business of low prices, or they started out with the lowest price before they got sued. And then they changed to always the low price or something like that. He said logistics. And this is super duper important. From a customer standpoint, they were retail. But from the back end standpoint, their entire company's thinking, it was all about logistics. It was all about that whole supply chain. It was all about trying to source all different vendors and being able to get at the lowest price possible, at the right place, at the right time. That required tremendous expenditure and investment in the right kinds of people, right kind of people, right kind of computers, software. The mindset was very different. Same thing with Starbucks. So define the first box that you got to define as part of your marketing strategy. And if you don't get that right, it can hurt you big time. You have to define your product and service carefully. Are you in the business of retail or are you in the business of logistics? Are you in the business of selling shoes or are you in the business of, an aspirational part of the business where you are getting people to imitate their icons like Nike is or was? Like, so typically when you are defining your product or service, you're trying to identify a unmet need, a niche, a void, a problem or capacity. I'm not going to repeat it. It's all in your slides. And by the way, you'll be emailed these slides. So you need to come up with something that your product and service is going to address any of these things. Here's the thing. And then next list your features. What are the features of your product or service? And it goes into more detail, but it's hard to go through in slides. Tesla. What do you think how Tesla saw its product as? You think it was trying to identify a niche, fill a void, an unmet need? What was it? Unlike Ford or GM, Elon Musk didn't go into the commodity segment. He went into the upscale segment, pricey segment, where the Teslas started at about 80,000 or something like that and went up to 90. And then some of them, the SUVs were north of 100,000. But he wanted a certain class of buyers, and we'll discuss that in the next few slides. But he was trying to address people who were craving for uh, something that would address environmental issues, but do it in style. But because Ford and GM were not doing it that way. And neither was Toyota's Prius, if you remember. Even today, if you look at Prius, that's a boxy little car. So first, you have to define your product or service. Once you define your product or service, next you define your target market. Um, once in the target market that you're defining, you would gather the market, size, the growth rate, competition, etc. This is going to take place through market research. FYI, all this market research, a lot of it is available at your local library. If you are in Houston, you can go and visit City of Houston Downtown Library, which today is right now closed, or you can go and visit Small Business Development Center, SBDC. It's a collaboration of SBA and the University of Houston. And they have that. If you're tuning in from outside of Houston, these SBDCs are all across the country. They partner with local universities and open up SBDC. So SBDC is a resource arm, just like SCORE is, except SBDC also has a library. And these are all what they have access to are paid databases that you or me don't have access to, where you can do a lot of extensive research. And the cost of that to you, zero. It's free. So when you define the target market, those of us who are from Houston, think about it, right? You will say that, if you are in the furniture business, oh boy, that business is pretty saturated. About 30 years back came along a guy with a business called Gallery Furniture. If you are from Houston, you know about that person. Mattress Mac McIngwell. Back in those days, we used to shop from J.C. Penney and Sears and all these companies. And all of us know that when we ordered furniture, it used to take like a month to 2 months to get it. And he identified a target market that said, you know what? I need these products ASAP. So his whole selling point was not about selling money. He used to do that gimmickry thing, but it was back order slip. No back order slip, if you remember. So his target market was, there were already big people on the scene, and his target market was those people who are sick and tired of waiting, who wanted furniture but didn't want to wait. Amazon, when it first started, what do you think its target market was? Today, Amazon is the big giant, right? What did it start with? You remember that spear? So Jeff Bezos did not become a complete A to Z retailer. He started with something, just one product, books. That's all he did, was books. All the books that you can find or ever wanted, we have them. And he gave it at a competitive price. Companies like Bookstop and Borders and so on and so forth said, people want the experience. But his was, I can get you any book that you want. And that caught on with the young crowd. It's the young people, the early adopters who adopted that and started ordering books online. And you pretty soon know what exactly followed. So Amazon defined its target market as those who wanted books, but those who are willing to look at it online. And web was catching on big at the time, web shopping. At the time, people my age and 50s and 40s were not comfortable going on the web and placing an order. But these young people, these millennials and whatnot, they were like, oh yeah, no problem, sign me up. They are the early adopters, and that was their target market. When you define your target market, be aware of possible disruption. So if you are a motel owner and you are talking about your target market as being truckers, careful. That market is about to be disrupted big time. And you have to get all this research, barriers to entry and so on and so forth. That helps you to define your target market in a more nuanced and in a more distinct manner. For lack of time, I have to rush through this. Otherwise, we'll be going way over time. The next box, once you have defined your product or service, and then you've defined your target market, and then you've defined your, identify your ideal customer, you then define, then you define your ideal customer right here. This is where we are. You identify your ideal customer right here. I'm not going to read through all this, but except point out this and give you a couple of examples. Psychographics. Psychographics versus demographics. A lot of people pay attention to demographic. I'm after the 18-year-old to 35-year-old and, of whatever, Hispanic market or African-American market or everybody and so on and so forth. Those are demographics. And that's fine. But the more critical and important thing, and we go back to this whole BMW ultimate driving machine or Tesla, psychographics plays a huge, huge role, folks. Psychographics is very different. Psychographic is the way that particular demographic thinks. I had once a client at SCORE. She was a chiropractor, and I'm going to just make up a name. Her name was Mary. And her business was Inside the Loop. And those of you who know Houston, Inside the Loop, right by 59, that's where her business was. So that's where River Oaks is, right? That's where all well-heeled clientele is. And then to the south of 59 is West University. So this is now a good 7-8 years back. It's a long time back when I had this client. And so when I asked her who's our target clients and so on and so forth, who's our ideal customer, she would tell me they're well-heeled people because she was at the high end. And I said, yeah, but how do they think? And she said, Nick, how does it matter what they think? I said, it does matter. Psychographics matter because in psychographics, what ends up happening is, I explained to her that it's not just well-heeled, but maybe you are attracting a certain type with your approach. Like she was wanting to go after those who were more environmentally conscious, who were more organically, wanted to eat organic foods. Back then, 8 years back, organic was not big, okay? It was just Whole Foods and that was it. And Whole Foods was pretty pricey and actually still is to some extent. So I told her, look, when, in talking with multiple conversations, what emerged was her ideal customer was those who are not just well-heeled in that area, but also who are more environmentally conscious people, who are organic, consumers of organic foods. So you can have well-off customers. Her customers were predominantly all white. So white, well-heeled, but most importantly, in her case, it was those who were save the planet types, in short, and organic food types. Which meant at that time, it was not River Oaks anymore. With all due apologies, River Oaks at that time, these are all people who are there are mostly oil people or who are making money off of the oil business. And I'm not saying anything bad about it. I'm just saying they're not save the earth kind of people. Maybe things are changing now. The West University crowd was that type of crowd. This became very important in the way she was doing promotions. So to give you an example, I'm kind of straying off the topic, but it's important because that ideal customer, she was going on Facebook and she had all that thing. Facebook was new at the time in terms of business. And she was saying, I'm not getting enough. She's getting all the likes and stuff like that, but nothing beyond that. So this was right before Thanksgiving, 1 month before Thanksgiving. I said, you know what? You need to put out your grandma's organic pumpkin pie recipe. And she gave me a blank look and said, she doesn't remember her grandma ever making organic pumpkin pie recipe. I said, Mary, you need to go through your family tree and find out someone who did, okay? And she did, and then she came back and said, oh yeah, I found out my aunt, somebody, something. Okay, so it was in that family tree. And finally we had a recipe. It was a good recipe, and excuse me, my footrest is slipping. I'm standing up. So she came out with this, and I gave the title, My Family's Multi-Generational Organic Pumpkin Pie Recipe. And she posted it. And did it get a lot of shares and comments? And if you want to be on Facebook and you want to be featured higher, shares and comments matter a hell of a lot more than likes. Likes are almost useless. I mean, they're okay, they're fine. Same thing with Google. When you want to Google, they're looking for this kind of stuff. So psychographics plays an important role to identify, because that is what's going to also let you decide on how you're going to market, how you're going to promote, what your postings are going to be all about. Otherwise, you are shooting blanks. I hope this is making sense. And I'm sorry I'm talking so much, because I like to be interactive, but this is not allowing for that. Next slide. So you've identified your product or service. You have identified your target market. You have defined your ideal customer. Now you have to identify your competition. In your identifying your competition, please think about indirect competition. I'm again going back to those automated truckers or automated trucks, and the impact it's going to have on all those truck stops, all those motels that are catering to them. They're thinking in terms of competition as being the next truck stop, whatever, 10, 20 miles down the road. Not so. The indirect competition is turning out to be something else completely. It's turning out to be automated trucks that don't even make a stop. Automated trucks don't need to rest. Automated trucks are not mandated by the federal laws on trucking that require you to sleep, whatever, every 8 to 10 hours, take some rest. None of that stuff applies. It's a machine that can keep you on going. So please be sure and identify your indirect competition. And then after that, list, do a SWOT analysis, your strengths, weakness, opportunities, and threats. Because, you know, once you know how technology is evolving kind of generally, you will know how to you know, kind of package yourself, if you would, or position yourself, if you would, to take advantage of the opportunities that are going to come about. Now I'm going to tell you about that realtor, that client of mine. I mentioned to you he was only making 30, 40,000 a year and struggling. So what we did was, with him, I said, your competition is, he used to look at his competition as other realtors. I said, it's not really, let's look at it completely differently. Your product or service itself might be dated, or it may not be effective. And when I looked at his what he was doing, the area that he was focusing on, I realized that he would make a great realtor for investors. So we changed his business model to come up with properties that investors would love to have, like the 3-bedroom, 2-bath in a certain price segment, a narrow one, not like all over the place listing a $400,000 house, a $150,000 house, and you're running around like a chicken with its heads cut off. Um, he made it more specific. I helped him do that. And then his target market ended up being investors. His ideal customers ended up being those who were investors looking for, this was on the southeast part of town, which was Pasadena going on south all the way to Lamarck in South Houston. So his ideal customers were those who were focusing on that part of the Houston area. His competition would be now not necessarily fellow realtors anymore. I mean, there are some realtors who will now and then produce listings for realtors, I mean, for investors, but it was his competition now was different. His competition was, I'm getting ahead of myself, but there's another category in the real estate market that try and cater to investors. So his competition changed. But the key thing he had, what he already had a bunch of customers. And all he had to do was go back over the years to all these customers and come up with all these customers who are interested in a rental property. And guess what? He already had, I think, close to like 2 or 3 dozen. And with those 2 or 3 dozen, he started identifying properties that would deliver a certain return on investment. And they loved it. So he was doing the same thing, being a realtor, going into the same place, the database, that's har.com, and identifying properties just like what a normal realtor does, but with a completely different focus. Because the target market had changed, the ideal customer had changed, and his competition was different. I hope with that, one example of the chiropractor and the realtor, these are like small businesses, okay? One-man shows or one-person shows, excuse me. How we ended up changing the way they look at their business and how it ended up resulting in significant revenue growth. From 30 to whatever, $40,000, he was now averaging 6 figures year on year. And he's actually doing, he's gone into other businesses now. He's no longer a realtor. He now has his own multifamily and so forth. By the way, I'll be teaching a class on Saturday at 2 o'clock on real estate. It'll be rental properties, how to develop a business on rental properties. It's a little bit of a plug, but it's at 2 o'clock, again, free. It'll be a webinar just like this one. So next, once you have done all these things, you have identified your competition, what will emerge out of that is you will be developing what's called a unique value proposition, sometimes called as a USP or unique selling proposition. Same thing. Effectively, think about USP or UVP as something as an elevator speech for you. When you're in an elevator and somebody asks you, Lisa, what do you do? Within 30 seconds, you have to be able to outline your unique value proposition to someone. Within 30 seconds, what is the business you're in and what makes you something different? That I am Amazon, and what makes me different is that I will get you any books that you want across the world delivered at your doorstep. Or that I am Nike and my unique value proposition is getting to you shoes where you'll feel like you are now Michael Jordan when you wear them. Or if I'm Starbucks, I'm going to give you an experience that is going to be unique in the way you have your coffee. As opposed to your living room, it'll be a living room of like-minded people where you can connect with. These are they're intangible, but they're carefully playing on the minds of people, folks. Psychographics, please remember that. If out of this whole class, this whole webinar, if there's two things that you want to take away with, one is make sure your product or service is looked at it the right way, that you don't become like a Walmart. A Walmart, like the way Sam Walton defined it. He's in the business of logistics, and therefore develop the business as logistics and not about retail. Something that was lost on the people that followed him later on, because Amazon ended up kicking butt over Walmart. If Walmart's successors, the Sam Walton successor had remembered what Walton had said, they probably would have jumped on the web bandwagon a lot earlier and taken on Amazon before Amazon took them on. So this unique value proposition is very important. It defines your business. So in Apple's case, this is about cool. It's about reliable. It's about, to be at the high end. It's about a customer experience of people that using the products and loving the look and feel. When their iPhone came out, or before that, what was it? What the heck was that? That played music, I something or the other. Anyway, just with that one finger, boom, boom, boom. It was not something unique as far as that sensory thing was concerned. And there were other music players around too, but Steve Jobs' genius was coming up with a design that was cool. And that's the psychographic part, folks. And because of that, he was able to charge premium price to the extent that today Apple makes more money in a quarter. What is it? Something like 50 or 60 billion dollars in just profits. They don't even know what the heck to do with their profits because of their branding, the unique value proposition. So what your USP is going to be the entryway into your customer's mind. So when you're hunting with a spear that we talked about, it is very important to have a narrow, sharp focus. This is very important because a lot of people, in that previous slide, I had a spear that looked like a trapezoid. That's what people go and hunt with. That's how they try and generate sales, and they go, Nick, it's not working. Well, it's not working because you don't have a unique value proposition. You don't have something that is sharp, to the point, that will penetrate a customer's mind. I can't tell you how important that is, even if you're a hairdresser. You have to have something that is unique in some respect. Okay, even if you're cutting hair, it doesn't have to be unique in that you're something different. Okay, here in that unique part, you're likely going to make less money. Just remember that. Don't worry, because once you have acquired that customer, boy, my pointer keeps on losing its point. Once you have acquired that customer, then you can follow with all your other services. Don't try and lead with these products or services. Amazon did not lead with these products and services. It led with only one, which is books. Books and nothing else but books. So Talking of Amazon, they've moved from books into books and CDs, more revenue. Then into movies, third-party marketplace is what they opened it up to. Other people now can come in. And today they're into just about everything. But Jeff Bezos had that business plan all along. The one thing he didn't have was his web services, which is one of the most profitable parts of Amazon. He did not envision that way back then. But this stuff right here, he had envisioned. This right here. But he led with one and only one thing, books. And it was to a certain part of the market that was receptive to those books being sold across on the internet, okay? So that is going to, all these things will result in the brand image. Your brand is going to be what your customers think about your company. One of the key things about the branding is that if you look at Apple, I'm going to Apple because it's so ubiquitous. Their stores have a certain look and feel, sleek, elegant. By the way, they have been criticized because the guy who originally designed it has left a long time back, and the new guy has not updated those stores. Those stores are now looking dated. But their products, which were so beautiful, that Steve Jobs had a big hand. Did you know that in laptops or on their keyboards of Apple, there is no backspace key? Steve Jobs was absolutely furious in looking at that backspace key. He didn't want that. The reason is he wanted people to have an easy time navigating on the screen. It's one of those idiosyncrasies, okay? Because that influenced the way all the products were designed, which goes back to that, whatever that iMusic or whatever it was that, you know, that with the finger, you kind of go through that whole music library. That simple thing can result in a different brand image coming out for your company. Now, you don't have to be an Apple, okay? The thing is that you have to be consistent always. So if you are like going to be high-end, then everything has to be high-end. If you are in Mercedes, then your stores and your the way people are going to talk to you, the way your cars, your after service, everything has to project that luxury experience. If any of those are not consistent with your brand is going to take a hit. Just remember that. A lot of people try and say, okay, I'm special, I'm unusual, and I'm at the high end, and I'm okay. Well, make sure all your products, the way you greet people, the way you are interacting with them, the way you are doing after service, everything is consistent with your brand image. So we've gone through the most important part of marketing, okay? We went through this whole thing. There's a 4 P's of marketing that you will now and then read about in as well as in classwork and so on and so forth if you were to take a class. And each of those, by the way, is a class by itself, all these 4. And we're trying to shrink this down within to hour and a half. We have already discussed the first P, which is the product or service. And so we're going to discuss a little bit about each of these 3, okay? Not too much, because they're just paucity of time. But we wanted to make sure in this webinar, you understood that if you get this right, if you get this wrong, none of this is going to matter. The problem that most businesses, when they come to us, after they have gone and defined this thing incorrectly, now they're battling over here. They will reduce their price because they're not getting the kind of sales they want. And I can give you lots of examples of people I actually mentored, okay? Or they'll say, I need to advertise in Google and blah, 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 and I'm not getting enough promotion. I need more money. They'll always identify, most of the businesses, that my main problem is I need another $10,000 or 20,000 or 50, whatever it is. If I could just advertise more, then things will change. In my opinion, for the most part, if you have gotten this wrong, it doesn't matter how much you're going to advertise. It's not going to work. So you have to go back and take a look at this right here. So price. I'm going to just say a few things about price. This is influenced by how strong your unique selling, unique USP, unique value proposition is. If you're unique and you have, if your product is unique, then you can get high pricing. If you are having a beautifully designed product like Apple, then you can command high pricing. But not everybody can command high pricing. At the same time, one of the things that a lot of businesses tend to do to attract customers is they go low on price. Once you go on low on price, you are in a dicey situation. You are now in the commodity business. And living there in that commodity segment for too long becomes quite dicey. I would not be living there, okay? I would try and find something in your original product, the way you have designed and defined your product, to come up with a way that your price can be not at the low and not at the high end. Because let's face it, most of the businesses that we are talking to, including you guys, maybe most of y'all, can't be an Apple. But just because you're not an Apple doesn't mean that you have to become a Walmart and become the lowest price. The Walmart can do that because they have scale. And they're making just pennies on the dollar. Walmart's, by the way, profit, I don't know if you know, is no more than like 3% of sales, 2 to 3%. But because they do, what is it, 600 billion in sales worldwide, 600 or 700 billion, it becomes quite a few many billions in terms of profit. Next one is place. Place can be the way you want to promote your product, where you want to put it up. It could be on Facebook. It could be on Shopify. It could be on Amazon Marketplace, eBay, all those things. So like here, it can be virtual. It can be pop-ups. You know, a lot of mom and pop can do pop-up stores. Lot of malls are allowing for this now because they need those empty spaces to be rented to somebody. Church bazaars and so on and so forth. We have an entire class in marketing that is focused on low-cost promotions and placement. Just FYI. Talking of promotion, so the promotion is the way you're going to advertise, the way you're going to communicate. If you're doing it through email, blast out, so on and so forth, that is all promotion. Whether you're going to have a tie-up with another third party, so you cross-promote each other, for example. These are low-cost ways of promotion. Whatever it is, there has to be this right here. It has to be unique, it has to be concise, it has to be clear, and it has to be consistent. Folks, whatever you do, please be consistent. This is the worst thing that a lot of businesses tend to do. They're not consistent because they are in the constant act of trying to sell, and they don't focus on the marketing aspect. Consistency, lack of consistency will destroy your brand. I promise you. And finally, on low cost promotion, we talked about that, you know, word of mouth through social media, uh, seeking referrals. I'm not going to go through all these things. I suggest you come and talk to us. Um, there are other people that mentor quite a bit. I don't mentor as much. I only mentor in real estate now, um, just because of the way my situation and time is. I'm more into real estate now. But we have people within SCORE and also nationally that you can reach out to who are, you know, they've got a good deal of expertise. Try and find somebody who's got a corporate experience, but also find somebody who's got entrepreneurial experience, someone like myself who had to learn the hard way to do marketing more effectively, or it was going out of business. So just so you know why I'm passionate about marketing, I was in IT. I started my business in 1997. First came the Y2K. You may remember that, when elevators were supposed to drop down from 10th floor and planes were supposed to fall out of the sky and all hell was going to break loose. Uh, Corporate America froze all spending to focus on Y2K. My company took a big hit. Then came 9/11, and then came the dot-com crash. We had three hugely disruptive events that put about 90% of my fellow businesses out of business. My fellow competitors out of business. I was one of the few that survived. The reason is marketing. I had done research and I had moved my company to go in a different direction. Remember that pyramid? I was trying to focus over here, even though most of my sales were coming from the base of the pyramid, which is fine. But in my communications, it was this right here. I was trying to communicate that I am something unique in this particular area. People started noticing. And because of that uniqueness, perceived uniqueness, let me add that, because out of all those, at that point, $8 or $9 million in sales, no more than $500,000 at most was coming from the tip of the pyramid, or tip of that spear, sorry. Not My bread and butter was really ordinary stuff. But because of that tip of the spear, I was able to get customers, I was able to retain them and sell them more of this bread and butter stuff. I hope this has been useful to you guys, because, you know, when you seek mentors, make sure you are talking to people who have been in business before, who have started businesses before. You don't like your mentor, you can change him, like I said, and you can look at us at score.org, or you can come to houstonscore.org and ask for a mentor over here too. Up to you. So this is to encapsulate what all we were talking about. We started over here. This is the most critical part. You get this right, you get this wrong, everything else goes for a toss. It doesn't matter. But that's okay. Even if you get it wrong, what this slide is trying to tell you is that you come back here, you get customer feedback, and then you go back in and redefine your product and service. And you have to. Every 6 months, you need to do this exercise because of what I discussed in the beginning. Things are changing at such a rapid clip that you have to know whether your product or service is going to be relevant over the next 12 months, over the next 2 years and 3 years. By the time you come to know and others come to know, it'll be too late. Nobody wants to buy a business anymore. And then you go into the commodity segment of lower pricing. So this is what it's saying. Look at your customer feedback, go back here, and then go through this whole process. It may seem a little elaborate. It's not really, but because once you have done it, it's a matter of just trying to refine it to make sure you stay relevant and on top. So I think that's the last slide. So finally, marketing to maximize dollars. As I said, the right marketing strategy execute on the selling process consistent with the marketing strategy and brand image. You have to execute on the selling process that is consistent with marketing. That itself will result in more money, more revenue, more top line. So final takeaways: be well read, be adaptable because of these technological changes. Remember CARV, C, connected, A, artificial intelligence, R, robotics, V, augmented reality, E, everything connected to the internet. And the question, what kind of a business are you? Are you in retail or are you in logistics? The product pyramid, remember that pyramid we talked about? What are you going to lead with when you talk to customers, which gives rise to your USP? It's iterative, folks. You don't stop once you have done it once. And then think long term, which is what I did, and executing short term. I talked about this pyramid. I kept talking over here because I knew this is where the market was going eventually, but I kept selling over here also. And that's it. If you have any questions, let me know. This is my email ID. I hope you have found this to be useful, and I wish you all the best. So if you have any questions, let me know, please. The first question, how do I register to next real estate seminar? There should have been an email that came to you from SCORE along with the same email that you registered for marketing. And in that same section where it talks about marketing, I think the fourth webinar is the real estate webinar. It is on this Saturday at 2 o'clock. Will you be sending the presentation slides to us? That's the plan. Just please understand, folks, we are nonprofit, so we don't have like experts in IT, which is why this thing last week kind of bombed. We were still getting used to Zoom at that time. So bear with us, or email me if you don't get it, and I'll send it to you. Thank you, thank you. What is the name of the workshop that focuses on low cost promotion? That's exactly what it's called. My suggestion is to keep on top of all these emails that you get. We don't send it in a fancy format. Again, because we are like, none of us are paid. There's a whole bunch of people who are just like, this is our spare time. But somewhere in one of those emails that you'll get over the next few months, you will see a workshop that focuses on low cost promotion. It might be held like maybe once every 4 months or 5 months. Thank you, welcome, welcome. I'm in the area of resale valves. I'm not the manufacturer, okay? I'm sorry if Marcos, if I missed your question. Key, the gentleman, lady or by the name Key, I'm currently in the travel industry. What strategies do you think are effective in this current market? My suggestion is to email me. It'll be kind of hard to talk about this because I'll need to understand what part of the travel industry, because that is so huge as well. Will the recording of the webinar be distributed? I wouldn't count on it, but if it is, just email me, please. Just email me if you're interested in the recording. And if one recording is available, I'll share it with you. Again, being a nonprofit, it's not like we keep all these things archived. We've just started doing this in the last week or two. We're still at it. What is the difference between investor and realtor? Do you need a license? The investor is the one that is going to buy the house. I think you're referring to that example I gave you of the realtor. Realtors are these people who, you see those signs for sale and then list a realtor's name. So realtors are licensed people. You have to take a license in the state of Texas. And they are the ones who find houses for you. If you are trying to find a house, they'll help you find a house. Or if you're trying to sell a house, they'll help you sell it. Okay, that's what realtors do. They're middle people, so to speak. So investors are the ones who are going to buy a house to make money, rental properties, okay, and buy the house to put it out on rent to make rental money, passive income, which is what that class that's coming up on Saturday is going to go into more depth. It's a two-part class, and we're going to do the first one this Saturday. So I hope I answered your question, the difference between investor and realtor. Do you still do crowdfunding? Boy, Stanley. Yes, I remember you, Stanley. I don't do crowdfunding. I did do classes back then. I just got busy in real estate and crowdfunding. Stanley, you have to stay on top because it keeps on changing. And I just was not in that mindset. I was at one point in time, and I let some clients help them crowdfund. But I don't know what the most current situation is, to be honest with you. So I don't want to promote myself as a crowdfunding expert. I'm not. So I don't right now. Being affected by COVID-19, most businesses change to online either temporarily or perhaps permanently. Will marketing techniques be the same in future? Nelson asked that question. Nelson, great question. It is widely by the experts in human behavior and in business. They're saying never again will we go back to doing what we were doing before quite the same. That doesn't mean that it's going to be just like this from here on out, but you're going to see a lot of businesses change because they're finding out something different. I'll give you an example. Today I had my grocery delivered to my doorstep from HEB. I'm thinking, do I really need to go to HEB anymore? Even when all these restrictions go by the wayside. Some of these things that were changing, right? This COVID just accelerated this thing at warp speed. This people working from homes. You're going to see a lot of companies taking a good hard look eventually and deciding, do they need all this office space? So there's implication to the office property market. I don't know where all this is going to play out, but I see some of these things are going to lead to somewhat permanency in in the way we shop, in the way we do business, and it's going to result in winners and losers, unfortunately, but that's the way it is. Can you talk about ways of doing low-cost public relations? Once upon a time when I was doing crowdfunding, I was on this game. Low-cost public relations. I'll tell you something about low-cost public relations. You'll get exactly what you pay for. There are websites. There's one that I know. I don't know off the top of my head, but if I go through my notes, I'm sure I'll find out. You can go and do your announcements in there. And it'll go out there and broadcast everywhere, okay? But the thing with that is, as I said, you get what you pay for. It's free. But if you go to the paid ones, then your post, whether it's your tweet or whether it's your Facebook post or whatever it is, will get more prominence in all the stuff, because there's a lot of, a lot of stuff all over the, as far as tweets and this and that are concerned that people are trying to communicate as part of the whole public relations campaign. And for you to break out becomes difficult from a public relations standpoint. Okay, so you're trying to get the word out. Low cost results in low cost returns. Now, that being said, there could be some individual companies. One of the good things, I hate to put it like this, but it has flattened a whole lot of businesses. By the way, even my business I'm in, real estate, got impacted quite a bit, negatively, I might add. But you just might, this is an anonymous attendee, I don't have the name of this person, but you just might, anonymous, be able to find PR people who are willing to do it at a much lower price. Just bargain with them, because there's a lot of people who are hurting, and you just might be able to get some people who normally charge, let's say, $1,000, who are willing to do it to you for $200 just to keep the lights on. You should be able to negotiate with just about every business for a good deal in the current environment. Okay, thank you guys for helping us much. Thank you very much, appreciate it. Great workshop, thank you so much. This session is being recorded. Boy, you know more than I. I'm just a presenter. The host is somewhere else. Yeah, it says it's recorded, isn't it? Like I said, just email me, please. And once I find out the recording, I'll share it with you. This session would be perfect for my wife to view. Yeah, why not? Absolutely, absolutely. Next question. I'm in the area of resale industrial, not manufacturing. Our company would be classified as logistics more. Oh, your question. Would we be classified as logistics more than retail? Let me tell you, if you're in manufacturing, you're in logistics, because you're part of some supply chain somewhere. So whoever your end customer is, whether that be Chevron, I'm not sure where you're located and what your manufacturing is, you're part of a supply chain. And therefore you are part of logistics. So logistics is a very broad term, okay? It encompasses getting material from point A to point B. And from point A, you are either going to manufacture it, put it together, then ship it to someplace else, and that someplace else is going to add some more value by getting it from another 3 things from somewhere else, and then they sell it to somebody else. If you look at the automotive sector, their supply chains are long. I mean, at each step, somebody is adding value. So you are part of logistics for sure, in my opinion. As far as how to look at it from a marketing standpoint, Marcos, you know, it's kind of like we got to talk more in detail. You need to really understand your business than try and give you some wrong answer in a few minutes. So I hope you understand that. Is it possible to send your PowerPoint? Yes, it is. And you will get a PowerPoint for sure. If you don't, email me, please. I'll send it to you.
Nick, there are 2 hands raised. Can you see it? Stanley Garcia and Tariq Khan. They've raised their hands.
I just see Q&A, Raj. I don't see a...
Okay, just click on participants so you can unmute them.
Oh. All I'm... Okay.
Now click on the participant list, because I can't unmute them. Doesn't look like. No.
Attendees. Okay, Stanley Garcia. Okay. Okay, Stanley.
Tell him to unmute himself if he can. Stanley, can you unmute yourself?
I can't unmute him, Raj. He has raised his hand. I see Stanley Garcia, but I don't have any control.
Okay, maybe he can do it himself. Ask him.
Can you unmute yourself, Stanley?
Oh boy, this is, uh, let's see.
I don't have that control, Raj.
You don't, huh? Okay. Uh, hold a sec. Uh, so you can't unmute Tariq Khan either, huh?
Uh-uh.
There's no button at the bottom to unmute all. Hold
That
on a
would
sec.
be with Bill, I'm assuming, when he set it up.
Okay. Hold on. I mean, this is something I did not know. So, one sec. Let me get out of this. Let me log in just a second.
In the meantime, let me just finish up answering
Yeah,
all the
finish
other
it.
questions.
Yeah, go ahead. Finish it off.
Uh,
I'll see if I can't do this.
uh, okay, so I'm not sure where I lost people, but boy, there's a lot of questions. Okay, so this question session is being recorded. Yeah, so yes, just like I said, email me, please, if you don't get the recording, and I'll try and see if I can get it to you. Is there a workshop on forming a LLC? Raj, do we do an workshop on the legal part, just on the LLC, or is it just part of that getting down to business?
All the legal stuff, but we will be doing it shortly.
Okay, the answer from Raj is, I'm not sure you heard that, is there will be a workshop on legal coming. Just watch out because these webinars are all new for us. We do it in person. So we have to get people who will do it online, and it's coming. That almost has become the new normal. Uh,
That's true.
so the investor needs a realtor. This is from TN Joyner. No, the investor does not need a realtor, to be honest with you, but having a realtor helps. Uh, this is very, uh, I don't want to give you a misleading answer, okay? Because you need to be a fairly sophisticated investor to buy without the help of a realtor. You have to understand those forms and understand what exactly you're signing up for, or you might get a lemon in your lap. And before you know, you've lost a lot of money. Please attend my class on Saturday, and we can talk about that more in detail. It's a two-part. So in the second part, we're going to cover this. Realtor is just one way in which you can acquire a property. Okay, TN Joyner. Should I use, Shantarika, should I use the same strategies for mobile bartending? Oh, mobile bartending. I have mentored a lot of businesses, but never a mobile bartending. I've heard of. I tell you what, Shantarika, just email me, please. Let's take it offline. What's the name of the class? TN Joyner, I think you've been asking about the real estate. Uh, Go to the same email where you signed up for this particular class. And in that same email, in the same area where this marketing class is mentioned, the real estate class is, I think, the fourth one in that list. There's only 4 classes. So in that section, I think it'll say webinars, just go to that section. And you will get another reminder on Friday, I'm assuming, from Bill to sign up for that class. What's your opinion in current real estate market? Boy, we're going off of subject here. Is it good for Nelson? We'll cover that in the class on Saturday, if it's okay with you, because this is on marketing. So let's stick with that, please.
Okay,
Will I
Okay,
continue?
Stanley,
can you
can you
hear?
hear?
Can you
Can you
speak?
speak, Stanley?
Okay.
Okay.
Please
Please, I
unmute.
unmuted you.
Where do you see the construction industry 10 years from now? Is a question. Alvaro, that depends. Construction industry is a big term, just like real estate is a big term and marketing is a big term. It depends on what part of construction are you in. You know, are you in like single family? Are you in like new builds? Are you in renovations? Are you in like, uh, you know, roads and bridges? Are you in like development part? Because there's people tend to be specialized in different areas. Uh, but you know, I think construction is always going to be needed, right? There's always a need to build bridges and roads. Congress is wanting to pass a multi-trillion dollar infrastructure bill that is going to put a lot of money towards infrastructure, which is construction. So anybody who's in roads, bridges, and stuff like that, there's a lot of money coming at you. And I know a friend who's heading a construction company. He got bought out by another company, and they're trying to merge it up where they can roll it up into a bigger company and sell it for several hundred million. So it's a lucrative area. How do I calculate the profit margin of rent? Okay, so I'm assuming you're talking about real estate here. How do I calculate the profit margin of rent? You're better off coming into the real estate class, Daniel. That's where we're going to go through in more detail. Can a mentor walk me through the process in obtaining an LLC? Absolutely. Make an appointment with one of our legal people, and they'll walk you through that process, and it's free. By the way, they will not form the LLC for you. They're not your lawyer, and they'll tell you to go and talk to a lawyer in the end. But they will definitely walk you through that process.
Nick, just tell them to go to houston.score.org and submit a request.
Okay, Marcos, did you get that? Go to houston.score.org. Oh, I'm sorry, it's T and Joiner. T and Joiner, go to houston.score.org, and there you'll see a one of the options to request a mentor. And you put in your exact question, okay, that it's concerning LLCs and legal, and you will be assigned someone who specializes in the legal area. Also, can you send me personal email? Tariq, score, that's my email, nick.tarte@scorevolunteer.org. Again, nick.tarte, TARTE@scorevolunteer.org. Sean, don't unmute all. We don't want a repeat of last week. No, we're not.
Okay.
Yes, thank you. I'll be waiting. Will you be available to come on my... Tariq is asking, will you be available to come on my TV call? We're having problems with that. I think you had raised your hands and we're not able to get that working. Daniel is saying, can you respond to my above question? What was it? Did I not respond to your question? How do I calculate the profit margin of rent? Daniel, this is the marketing class. So if you're asking about rental property or it's something else, just email me, please. Since it's not marketing, I don't want to hold up everyone. I hope you understand. Marco Sierra, could you repeat? What? I'm not sure what you're asking me to repeat. I said a lot of stuff. I apologize, but you got my email ID. Just email me. Thanks, Raj and Nick. Thank you. Thank you so much. Tariq Khan, my TV channel called D Site USA. Tariq, just email me, please, because I'm not following what your question is exactly. Thank you so much, guys. Yeah, thank you so much, guys. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, folks. That's the end of it. Again, I hope it was informative. Stay safe. Good luck. Bye-bye.